YouTube series. In this session, we're going to take a look at the surface thicken tool. So in the case of surface thicken, we're going to construct the surface, and then we're going to take a look at how we generate 3D volume out of that technically infinitely thin surface. So surfaces are essentially a thin representation of a curve, and that curve then needs to be generated into volume in order to be able to either cut it or machine it or create a mold out of that. So in this example, we've got two surfaces on the left and right. Those are going to represent our edges of the tangency for our cover. This could be a cover example. So the first thing we're going to do is create a loft between those two elements. So I'm going to use the Loft tool, and we're going to loft between the edges of the one side. Right click, continue to the opposite side. So in that example, it'll just do a linear run between A and B. The reason for the surfaces is that we can actually create what's called tangency between those surfaces. So those are changing to our conditions. So from edge 1, we want to have a tangent curve, which essentially is 90 degrees out going into the next one. There you can see it's going into the next one, but we can also set that one as tangent. The next option is that I'm just going to accept OK to that. That generates our surface. I don't need these anymore. Those are just purely for construction requirements. And now what we're going to do is want to create a body in order to be able to either do documentation or machining or mold parts out of that. So the Thicken tool is under our Modify tab of the 3D modeling category. So when we activate the Thicken or Offset tool, it asks us which faces we'd like to offset. So we can select each segment separately. Obviously, if it was the surface tool with all faces merged, it would only have one quilt to work with. I'm not going to work with quilts at this stage. There's also another option for quilts that we'll deal with later. But right now, for this example, we're just going to use auto chain, select the surface. It has a default value of 1 millimeter. It's a bit thin, so we'll go 1.5. So with the options in the direction category, it's always to the first option is to the outside, so infinitely thin border towards the outside, inside or middle, so it's 7.5 in, 7.5 out, 7.25, 7.25. And we've got some properties for the tolerancing. And we'll say OK to that, and that generates our volume. The loft is no longer required, it's just construction geometry. It is related, so if there's any changes to the underlying geometry, then the Thicken tool also updates. So it's nice for doing tweaks to covers or items that needs to be aesthetic. And that's the Thicken and Offset tool. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of our series.